and good morning to all of you. Looking forward to engaging with all the panelists here. Uh, the session is called TravelTech meets Fintech and meeting travel financing through partnerships. So I'll begin with Mr. Jalan. By all accounts, domestic tourism seems to be booming in India. In an interview with ET last month, tourism minister had estimated that the tourism industry is likely to grow at an estimated CAGR rate of over 24% over the next 5 years. Domestic air passenger traffic surpassed pre-COVID levels in financial year 2024. International air passenger traffic also surpassed pre-COVID benchmarks by about 30%. In the midst of all this, how critical are fintech solutions to meeting the needs of these new age Indian travelers?
Sure. Thank you for the question. It's quite a loaded question because there are multiple parts to it. So I think you mentioned about three. If I split it in three parts, I think the first one is around the demand that we have been generating. The second part is about fintechs, and the third part you said how critical it is. So if I have to split it that way, I don't have to repeat. You mentioned about some of the numbers, but the demand is quite of unprecedented, right? So obviously, one of the analogy that I gave that the ratio to flyer to population ratio is so highly skewed in case of India versus any other country, that I think there's so much of room that we have to cover. So just to give you a number, like US population of 340 million, there is 900 million flyers. So the ratio is 3, multiple of 3, and then you have, if I take, people will say US se kyo compare kar rahe ho? Then we will say, okay, let's do that comparison. China, which has a population of 1.4 billion, they have around 700, 800 million kind of flyers, so the ratio is, let's say, half. In case of India, who is the most populous country, the ratio is 1 by 6, 1.5. We are only 250 million flyers. So I think from that perspective, the ratio is so skewed that there is so much of scope. Now, the second part of demand is that you said about the new flyers and how, they are growing. I think 30 million flyers were added just last year. So the boom is so humongous that, I think the problem that we will have is more on the supply, that we will not be able to cater to the kind of demand that we are having, that we will not have enough planes to cater to, even though we have been talking about large order books and all that are there, but the delivery takes its own sweet time. So I think, why I'm saying this, because the demand is so much. To cater to it, one, you have to get the supply, and the second, you have to give accessibility. And that's where fintech comes in. Now, what happens with fintech is, the best thing about fintech companies that has happened in India is that we have revolutionized the way the payments are done. And obviously, thanks to the Government of India initiatives, UPI has played the biggest role in it, right? To democratize payments to an extent that nobody could have ever imagined. So from that, so demand is there. With the payment apps, you were able to distribute it so widely that every tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 city, every nook and corner, you have payment apps now that you are able to access. Now, how critical it is, I think, is the third part where it becomes very interesting. The challenge that you will have as new flyers come in, and as the accessibility increases, the affordability also has to increase. So either the supply can go so much that the pricing and everything is affordable, but it doesn't look like that it will be in the near future. The pricing will be always slightly challenging, and with time it will change. So from that perspective, and if I give you like the credit accessibility side of it, there are like, we just touched, I think, a few days back, 104 million credit cards. But the number of users that we have are still 48, 49 million. So the ratio, which was 1.4, now has gone to more than 2. So it means more and more credit cards are coming to the same set of users. So I think the credit accessibility has to be so higher. So I think that's where fintechs will play a very major role. That you are able to democratize just not payments, but you are able to also democratize credit. So that you are able to give it to each and every individual. So that it is, so then when all these parameters meet, then I think you will have an aviation industry or aviation business that we have never seen in any time in the history, right? And we will be, I think, I potentially feel we'll definitely be bigger in China, but we could even touch to the number of US. Because the aspiration and the growing middle class, the Gen Z population is so high that, the demand will never be a problem. It will be only other things that we can give. So what is payment ecosystem helping is giving that accessibility, getting more and more people into the digital ecosystem from a very younger point of time in their life, and then you are able to distribute credit on top of it, and then you give affordability and all those things. So I think when all these three, four things are playing in symphony, then we will be in a situation that I think we all are very much looking forward to. But I think there are two, three things that we have to sort out before that, before we reach there.
Sure. And coming to Mr. Sethi, you led digital transformation at Indigo Airlines prior to Adani Digital Labs. So, how have companies looked at more tailored travel financing solutions for travelers post the COVID-19 pandemic? If you could share some details on that, as an industry observer, how have you seen companies adopting more tailored offerings?
Sure, sure. First, thanks for having me, Mishra. It's a great question. So I saw COVID at Indigo,
Yes.
and it was I say that it was fantastic golden days because the amount of digital transformation happened in the COVID days didn't happen in the first 15 years of Indigo's history. Um, we saw 35% online web check-in to go to 98%. We saw ancillary services go from half per pax to 1.5 per pax because now people are paying web check-in, people are buying meals. Indigo is one of the biggest F&B companies. People don't know it. They are the largest airline with 62% market share, but they sell more food than anybody else in
Wow.
air, right? Yeah, than Domino's, of course. So there are actually four core pillars, and I was putting my thoughts together while I was coming that how can I do justice to the topic. And four key areas, and I would like to use the phone. So uh, I saw innovative collaborations in the ecosystem. So how the travel tech, fintech, BNPL, some of the amazing startups and companies collaborative coming together. The whole personal financing uh, happened and saw from 0 to close to 40-50% of growth. Uh, every third traveler take one of those services these days. The whole trust and security, which is very, very important, let's say how Paytm and Adani one came together, and whether it's a UPI. So we have not reinvented the wheels. We've used the best of best in the ecosystem. Then the whole user experience, that how can you make the journeys come faster? And a lot of innovation has gone through that because India has become from desktop to mobile first and digital country. Out of close to 900, 950 million mobile phones, the penetration, we are the most disruptive country ever in this ecosystem and most open also. And the last is the use of data and AI. Now, the last decade of innovation, the next, you can say, 500 to 600 days, we will see a whole shift which will become a data-centric thing because people are getting used to these. Google first time in the history has lost the search engine market share. First time in the history, right? So chat GPT, a localized version of a chat GPT where with a localized voice and your personalized persona, there's so much which is going to happen that you don't need to go to an app or a website to do the task. And that is going to change a lot. And what I saw at Adani is incredible because globally nobody has created a super app on travel which has a mix of OTA and airport experience. So if you look at Singapore, if you look at Dubai, Singapore has done commerce better, Dubai has done touchless seamless experience better. But on Adani one, we have seen that transformation. We have close to 35 million consumers. And what Vikash was saying that India, there are, let's say, 250 to 300 million unique travelers, out of which we as an airport, 85 million travelers fly from our airports, 25 million unique. And we don't spend any money to acquire this customer. The only job we have as a team is to enhance that customer experience, and that experience with that aspiration, with the travel tech and fintech merges, is great touch point. Everybody is going to make money if we solve for the customer who's not in this room.
Sure, I understand. And Mr. Mishra, coming to you, I understand that Flywire operates in the overseas education space in India, but globally, Flywire does work in the travel space with DMCs, with travel agents and accommodation partners. So if you could talk about the kind of work Flywire does in the travel space globally, if you could share some details on that.
So hi, good morning everyone. So my take would be like the solution that we came in, because Flywire is a payment company, and as a payment company, the need that was there for the education segment, we solved it in a very big way. And similarly, if you see the travel, so we have 1,000+ clients who act as a DMC in their local jurisdiction, maybe hotels, maybe travel operators, and spread across all those geographies. Probably we are solving in different multiple currencies, we are solving their solutions. And those all experiences are in a way wherein we solve their payment experiences, like they do not need to hassle for their reconciliations. They do not need to bother about underpricing or invoicing of like a short payment. And everything is getting masked within our ecosystem that we have built in for them. So this is a big win for them in their local market. So coming down to this portion that we have, so yeah.
Sure. And Mr. Jalan, you talked about pricing challenges given demand-supply constraints, which are likely to continue in the foreseeable future. How has Paytm looked at differentiating its fintech solutions for the travel space? We keep hearing of EMI plans being launched to reduce the financial costs of travel. We keep hearing of new features getting launched. So how has Paytm looked at differentiating fintech solutions for the travel ecosystem?
Yeah, sure. So I think Paytm is very uniquely placed, and specifically Paytm Travel within Paytm is very uniquely placed. So our business model has always been that we acquire consumers on payments, and then we cross-sell different kind of verticals to them. Uh, Travel from that perspective, as I was talking about, alluding earlier about that, how the penetration has gone into tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities. That's why we have been able to acquire more and more and more consumers. So from travel point of view, the acquisition cost becomes zero, technically, as compared to any other company if I have to look at my independent P&L. And that is what even Nitin was saying, that consumers just come to the airport. They have no other way. They cannot go from a ship deck, right? So they have to come, and that's why the CAC becomes. And if you are in that kind of business model where your CAC is zero, then you can only, I mean, that is the biggest cost in any consumer internet business today, right? And that you're not able to generate LTV out of it. Now, from that point of view, I think that gives us a unique proposition. Now, how do we make it accessible? And this is where we have gotten deeper into credit and financing and EMI and all that. So we had like Paytm postpaid product. We had like, wallet product where all the merchants were, collecting payments and all that. UPI, which gives the trail of, not from audit point of view, but at least gives the strength of an individual merchant or a person who is doing P2B transfers. That we know, okay, this much of money this person has, then I can give them 2x, 3x of lending very safely. And which the banks will never be able to do, right? Because their cost of distribution of cards or credit is become so exorbitantly high. That's why they always focus, and the example that I was also talking about earlier about the credit card being so limited to a set of users is because everybody is going after them. It's because I get bombarded for personal loans from every other bank every other day. I don't need that loan. And like, I'm sure a lot of people here don't need it, but the people who really, really need it are the ones who don't get it. And that's where this becomes so important. So we have been able to do such kind of products, and we are even thinking, a lot of it is obviously can't talk about because they are in the competitive landscape, but there is, everybody is now banking on credit card EMIs because there is no travel EMI per se product that is very, launched at scale. So that is one big opportunity area. Small time loans, which you can give during the transaction size, during the transaction journey, is amazing. At real time, you are able to tell, hey, you want to buy this ticket for 20,000 bucks. I know you. I am going to give you an instant loan right now. You can purchase this ticket and pay me whenever you have money, or I will collect you from your payments. You have entire access to that person, and that person also feels comfortable that yes, you are able to. I don't mind. So what happens with our merchants today is why that product became so hit, our like Soundbox and QR, because we know the trade. And then what happens if every day you deduct 10, 20 rupees, it doesn't feel a pinch to them. We get our money back. The credit underwriting is right there because of the payments that you are getting. So it becomes such a beautiful model for us. And that is where we are, doubling down on. So I think those are the products that we are very, very effectively, able to sell and do to improve accessibility, the other part of the problem that we are trying to solve.
Sure, understand. And can we expect, I'm just following up with the question. Can we expect like part-time payment plans for international flight bookings, for instance, given the rising costs of international travel?
Yeah.
Can we
Yes,
expect more
absolutely.
such
I think,
features?
yeah. So I think part payment is one part of it. It's a very interesting product. We are obviously evaluating it. We are also evaluating, as I was saying, about travel EMI, if you're able to give. It's a travel loan. So we give loans for education. We give loans for housing. But why we are not able to give a travel loan at a scale that you are able, and which is a small ticket size loan, right? 20, 30,000, 1 lakh rupee up to 1 lakh rupee. I think, and when you have an underwriting of a ticket, that you know that this person is going to travel and you have the history, I mean, that is, it becomes even more easier. So I think, yes, absolutely, there are all these opportunities that we have and exploring and doing that you would see with time. Postpaid was one part of it, a small kind of cameo of that, and then we will be having more products in future.
Sure. Mr. Sethi, how considerable is this travel loan segment in India, and you see that growing in the foreseeable future?
No, absolutely, Anumeha. It's a very good segment, penetrated close to 80 to 100% year on year. Some of the LOBs. So if you look at airports as landscape ticketing, of course, he talked about, but airports at landscape, there are LOBs which have a very natural penetration coming up. For example, our duty free for our Pranam lounge, where the ticket size is higher. Let's say 3,000, 4,000 and upwards. But if you look at F&B, people aren't going to take loan for 300, 400, 500 rupee ATV. But if you look at duty free, where the average transaction value is 10,000 upwards, and you can give him a nice loan or buy now, pay later, where you're saying that your credit limit is 50, 60,000 rupees. People are going to take it because they're getting best of best offers. They are saving. And on top of it, if you have right partnership, for example, for us, we have ICICI, Visa, co-brand credit card. So there is a pre-book discount. There is card loyalty points. So in totality, you are saving 20% of already a great deal. That type of discounts you will never get anywhere in the city. So if you understand your cohorts, segments, and can solve a problem with convenience, trust, and of course value creation through discounting, which works in India beautifully. All of us like discounts. That is amazing. The second segment which we see is not pre-booking, but at the counter. Let's say the customer who's using EDC machine or a UPI, that how can you have a right partnerships and penetrate some of the LOBs. And that I think that as an industry, we have to do a lot of work. It's still very less penetrated, less single digit, right? And even if so next 3 years, we can grow 100% year on year. That is the potential in those segments.
Sure, understand. Mr. Mishra, coming to you, this is something that has affected all of us. We just got through the year-end season, and there was a lot of conversation online about the rising cost of holidays in India. A lot of people compared international short-haul holidays with popular leisure holidays in India, how Indian leisure destinations are becoming a lot more expensive. Personally speaking, what's your take on this, and how critical could travel financing be, given the rising cost of holidaying in India?
Yeah, it's a generating issue right now. If you see the cost which has risen, probably in my personal experiences, I have seen it post-pandemic when the market opened. So everything boomerang, given the cost that was inside India. So if we are parallelly accommodating all those factors, so I'm seeing like in my personal travel, what I have believed, and the middle class, which I feel that trust is like inside India, the cost has gone to that rise that you can compare it with some other leisure destinations abroad, overseas. And definitely, for sure, as my co-panelists are spelling about the customer experience factors, the financing factors definitely in play. which are going to help out the other middle class, as well as the penetration deep inside the tier 2 and the tier 3 cities, because we are sitting in the tier 1, wherein most people are educated and all those things are happening. So formal literacy schemes inside the tier 2 and tier 3 is definitely going to boom along. And along with what I feel like, there's an option 2, which people are getting as a overseas, getting accommodated. Like, for example, if somebody is planning a holiday in India, and that comes with a planning a holiday in Dubai, and even if it comes with a few bucks higher, so it makes sense to make a international travel, explore the new jurisdiction, learn a new culture. Although domestically we are quite hybrid, and India as such, you cannot explore in a one go or two. It will take you years to explore. But yeah, there's option 2 which is getting created due to the cost which has risen in the system.
Sure. And we cannot not talk about AI and travel financing solutions going ahead. So how critical could AI be? We already see AI being used considerably when it comes to trip planning, holiday planning among travelers. So when it comes to travel financing and AI, how critical could AI be?
Wow, so that's a topic in itself, if I have to start. But in the sense, we could go on for a long time. But if I have to summarize, I think everybody, I will not talk about things which people have already touched upon or used, right? So now everybody is going and planning their trips on ChatGPTs of the world, right? The thing is, but interestingly, not a travel company has been not able to do it at scale. So people, that is very interesting, that everybody talks about any AI, everybody talks about trip planning, everybody talks about that we could do. But interestingly, no big travel company has been able to actually create a product like that which solves for it. So actually, that is one of the things that we are very, very deeply focused on. I think AI is going to change the way we operate and work in a unprecedented way, right? People have not even imagined. It will just blow away the mind in few months, few years. That's the pace that it is going. But one point I want to just highlight here is that what is happening is, so everybody is looking at AI in their isolation space, right? So if I as a user, if I'm able to discover faster and AI is able to help me faster to solve something, AI helps my problem. Second part is, if AI same way is applied at, let's say, airline side, will be applied. It is getting applied, right? Where they are able to optimize on their staff cost, on the fuel cost, on the maintenance cost of them. Similarly, AI is getting applied on the financial products, where they are able to personalize, optimize, give a credit, whatever at certain extent. AI is also being used at, offering a personalized view on the apps, where you are able to give a discounting and the sensitivity of discounting or whatever you want for a particular user based on what. So all of this, when they work in conjunction, I think with time, the costs are going to come down dramatically. Overall, AI is expensive now in general. It is very, very cost prohibitive. But with time and the evolution and the technology advancement that is happening across, I think actually the cost to the end consumer is going to come down dramatically. That's what I feel. Because everybody is optimizing in their own space. There are two ways: either the margins go up for that individual, or you will reduce the cost because you have to get to the demand. So I think from that perspective, I think so. Somebody forwarded me an article in the morning. I was reading, said Goldman's CEO said this, that for filing an S1, which is effectively a pre-registration of an IPO doc, which is the draft that they file, it used to take 6 people 2 weeks of time. Now AI does 95% of it in few minutes. So what has happened is the quality of work now the people are going to do is only that 5%, which is the differentiation. So for all of us that will happen. 95% of the work will get optimized. The difference is where we all will be able to add value. So I think from that perspective, I think it will change dramatically on the cost and optimization in general, because effectively it is all hitting to the cost. When you're optimizing something, it is actually effectively helping on that. So I think that is where I think it becomes very, 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 very interesting. And I'm very bullish. Paytm in particular, you will see in its next avatar in travel, AI will play a hugely important, and we are very, very deeply adopting AI as an organization. And we are just only going to double down on it. We are not going to reduce.
Sure.
So Anumeha,
Yeah.
I do have 2 cents to add on. It's
Sure.
such a great topic, and Vikash has covered it beautifully. So from where I see it from a at least hands-on expert on the ground, there is a arrow in the airports. So whether computer vision predictive analysis in terms of packs really plays great role in customer experience as well as revenue generation. Second is the whole thing on the computer vision, where we can do resource optimization, gate planning, baggage, security. There's a huge area, and there I'm telling you AI is not expensive because AI is reducing manpower by 90-95% and increasing the efficiency almost to the last tiny level. And then there is a whole area of making the partners and concessionaires successful, because if you are able to use AI and the power of data with the customer and saying that there are so many chat agents which will smoothen the journey, increase the ATVs and yet the yield. And that's where most work needs to happen, which is on the consumer side. Other areas, AI is actually on the advanced stage, from at least in our ecosystem.
Sure. Mr. Mishra, your thoughts on AI and travel fintech?
Look, we have already started integrating the AI and all those scopes in our payment ecosystem towards the overseas education that we have, because that's a next segment that we are targeting right now. And we do have peer experiences team based globally in all those local jurisdictions. For example, if I say India, we do have a call center over there, and the people speak the local regional languages. But now coming down to the AI and the payment expenses that we gather on the overseas education space is more on the front, like they help the entire process in a big way. And similarly, we are trying to integrate it globally on the travel, for the travel piece that we are trying to solve.
Sure, understand. Your outlook for the travel industry for this year?
I don't think I need to say anything. I think we all here, if you ask, if you on a percentage basis, I think I would say it is 100%, if not 1 or 2% for whatever reasons. I think everybody is very bullish about everything around travel, right? It's about, first of all, India macros, everybody is bullish, everybody is, growing, middle class is growing, the income levels are rising, everybody is becoming aspirational, more and more order book that we talk about. Like, so there is absolutely nothing which is against. There is absolutely nothing which is against travel. I think the travel, and we have already seen revenge travel ke baad to behavioral travel ho gaya. Now everybody wants to travel for every 3-6 months, whatever period, because the accessibility, people say Goa se zyada cheaper to Dubai, and these people can go, right? So I think I am absolutely bullish on India, absolutely bullish on travel, absolutely bullish on digital payments. The next, as somebody said, I think next century is for India and its people.
Great.
So yeah.
Your outlook for this year?
See, in next couple of years, 25-30 new airports going to come in, 20% new trains going to come in, great tier 2, tier 3 networks getting created as hub, and with 10-15% growth on the income side, it's going to get multiplied. So we believe that there are at least 4 to 5 big unicorns going to emerge. We've seen a couple of them this year. And in next, let's say, 2 odd years, we expect 4 to 5 new unicorns coming in this space. And we would like to play an active part in this ecosystem, with even Navi Mumbai Greenfield Airport coming in.
Sure.
Navi Mumbai. All coming from Adani. With the partner ecosystem.
Sure. Mr. Mishra, how do you see the travel industry shaping up this year?
Look, I would like to add on to what Mr. Jalan said. Like, this is Gen Z, this is Gen Z. And then I see like it's all about a hodophile sort of concept, wherein wanderlust traveling is happening. Earlier we called it revenge, but right now the class and all those things that I'm seeing is more on the hodophile segment, wherein they are keen to travel. People are keen to travel. Income level has risen up for India. And then I see like we are a species wherein we want to spend now. And COVID has taught us that money is not everything that you get. And you need to spend it across within the lifespan that you have got. So I believe that this segment and this particular piece, when it clubbed with travel, fintech, everything, it's going to boom up. And it's just on a very higher side of thing that we need to see, and I'm quite bullish on this.
Thanks so much for your time, everyone. Do we have time for questions?
Yeah, we can have 5 to 10 minutes for a Q&A session if anyone is interested.
Sure. If anyone has any questions? Yeah, sure. If you could introduce yourself and...
Is I audible?
You are audible. Sure.
Thank you. So my question is not very much into just digitalization, but it's related to travel. So I'm lying in my business related to pet travel actually. So because a lot of leaders are here and they all are talking about travel. So are you considering that traveling with pets is actually booming in India? Because it's very easy in other countries, but there's still a lot of struggle, struggle in India, traveling through trains and through flights is a struggle. So anything you have in mind?
So I think, yeah, my view is that traveling with pet is only, I think, so as Indians, I think in certain things we are always catching up, right, with the world. This is one of those areas, and we are, I think, catching up very, very fast. I think now we have pet restaurants, we have pet-friendly hotels, we have even certain flights which are saying that they have pet-friendly, you are able to carry your pets in a proper way. I think that it is from, because what is in my control, or in like our control, most of us, like maybe Nitin will have a slightly different view, but like in my control is from a digital businesses is little, because we are dependent on the infrastructure. So the infrastructure, if it builds up, I think, and I think it is going to build up. First of all, I think the business is going to boom. If you're in that business, I think the business is going to boom because the awareness and everything is coming. I think it's only that it will take its own catch-up time and everything to reach to that level. For us, it is all about accommodating that, right? Once you get it, you have to just enable it through digital infrastructure. So I think from that perspective, it will naturally happen as and when the business comes in, but it is bound to happen. So I think you are in the right domain. I think you may have to be a little more patient as to when that infrastructure comes in, but I can see very green signs, very good signs of things happening, because I have been seeing, because it has started reaching to the every mass, right? From that perspective, that everybody's talking about it. Earlier पहले तो कोई सोचता भी नहीं था ना, मतलब everybody was like, whether there were societies which still don't allow pets to be kept in, there were like, but people are now, it is becoming part of life. It is becoming part of life. So I think it is, when there is when there is demand, there is business, and then there is money to be made, and everything falls in place. So I think you are in that phase. So good luck to you.
So I do have a add to what he said. So look at Akasa. They've set a phenomenal example becoming a pet-friendly airline. There are hotels on expensive side which provide these services. As an infra, in India we're growing because of two very basic reasons. We have more nuclear families, more young couples. There are a lot of couples deciding not to have kids, have pets, and that trend is booming. So it's a great segment. You will make tons of money. Look at the pet food industry that has seen the change, and so many great brands with high PAT coming into this ecosystem. So pet travel, absolutely. Do we have a right infrastructure to support that growth? May not be true, but are the brands coming together, making their efforts and changing? Absolutely, yes. So 100%. So, but look at Akasa. They are cracking the segment, and there's so much loyalty. Any brand who will crack, pets are like kids these days. So, so they have a very high loyalty of that customer segment. So more and more brands should do it. It's a great segment to be in.
See, particularly the data and AI segment, like you also mentioned, it's a lot of things are being happening, but it's a cost prohibitive in number of cases. And the way things are progressing, the industry is still, are you saying that people are looking for wait and watch kind of scenario, or is something people are actively investing lots of money into this, or what's really happening in this?
See, any disruption that I have seen that happens in a world happens exactly this way. That first, people write off. Second, people acknowledge. And then by third, people when accepted, it's too late. So AI is that kind of disruption that is happening. When that disruption happens, that process may seem a little slow or cost prohibitive. And because not everything in that ecosystem is getting built at the same pace at which the technology is getting built. So when digital cameras were disrupted by phone cameras, they didn't even know this. And they knew it, but they didn't even, they said, कौन phone से photo खींचता है यार? मतलब digital camera, I give that quality. But what happened, because the quality of that digital phone camera was so bad at that point of time, probably they were right, that the quality. But what was forgotten was that they were so much more agile in phone, because phone is such a replaceable instrument. Digital camera is not. If you bought it, it's like marriage. You have spent 1 lakh rupees, you have to keep it with you, and you have to, So, but phone was a low-cost model, and they were able to experiment, and half infrastructure cost, the hardware costs were dropping so dramatically. It actually got disrupted even before they realized it. So AI is on that phase. If any organization is not onboarding it, they will get disrupted in some or the other form. I'm going out and saying that. And the thing is that at this point of time, it looks cost prohibitive because there are double costs baked in. You have people doing that work, and you also have AI. I'm not saying that it will disrupt people completely, because people will move into higher value chain. That's what happens, right? You always move to a higher value chain ecosystem. As I was saying, giving an example earlier, 95% of the work is automated, but that 5% becomes so critical that the people would have to still do that. There will be an angle to that. It is not like 100% maybe at some point of time, but I don't think there is some things that will come. So I think the cost prohibitive is right now, but as the infrastructure hardware cost is improving, I think this will get rationalized, and actually, as I was again earlier saying, the costs are going to come down dramatically for everything. And that's what will happen. So I think, yeah, it's just a matter of time.
And maybe go with AI with localization. Look at customer support, look at image creation, look at content writing, image editing. Some of the areas, the niches have really worked well, both in terms of cost, in terms of customer retention and value creation. But for the mass cases, India has still not built their own AI original models. We build on top of it, and that is working beautifully for us. So there is a decent wave of change which is coming.
Are the organizations truly ready for the that kind of a data to support the true AI outcomes?
But you and I make the organization, so it's that right now resistance to change, what he said, that there is no other way but to go through this change. So we've gone through web to mobile, mobile to apps now, apps to AI has to happen. Most of the new generation models having AI enabled, whether you use Microsoft or Twitter, it's inbuilt, so you don't need to pay extra. But that change is definitely here, not tomorrow, is today.
Any more questions?
I think if you're talking in generic in travel space and not particularly talking about AI, AI is going to play a very big role any which ways, as I just mentioned, everywhere. I think specifically, I think what in travel nobody has solved, and Paytm as a company, we are very bullish in solving that, is that every travel experience that you have, and I'm sure a lot of you would have gone outside India and traveled, and you would have seen the hassles and challenges that everybody faces through. You discover on Instagram, you share on WhatsApp, you book on a platform, you go onto 10 different platforms, you book on those platforms, then you go and get insurance from a fourth player, you go and do your ticket buying from fifth player from the local site saying whatever, right? And then there is visa, which is sixth. So there are so many disparate things, there are problems that to be solved even today. And I think people have not been able to, so I think there will be one disruption, at least we are thinking like that we want to disrupt and create a space where you are able to come one platform and the platform is able to handle and guide through AI to solve all these problems for you in one place. And that's what happens, and that is one disruption. which is on the consumer experience side. That thing I think should happen. Everybody still goes through that same old form of filling from, to, date, whatever, right? I think that needs it's high time it needs disruption. Second thing is, I think there is a lot of disruption that is happening on supply side and the protocol. I think there are a lot of GDS players that have been there in the system. I think they are actually feeling that pressure with NDC and things, if you are familiar with that, that is happening around it. Because of, and not that NDC came today. NDC has been there for 20 years. And people have just not adopted it, which is new distribution capability, where you are able to give direct access to the airlines, much more standard frameworks for people who are not aware of it. And there was, so anyways, the costs are going to come down effectively, because everybody, the margins for GDS, unfortunately, I have few GDS friends here, I don't see them, but the margins are going to come down and all that. So I think there is, so from supply side, price disruption will happen, discovery disruption will happen, and the other experiences that we were talking about, which are around the infrastructure creation in between, about how we facilitate several use cases that are not even thought about. I think all those 2-3 things will happen. And then fourth is financing side disruption, which is evident and imminent that will happen, that how do you make it affordable and accessible for everyone to use that. So I think these are the 4 areas where you will, I think, big disruptions are bound to happen, and we will see the results, what comes out of it.
You coming from Indigo, an ex-colleague, it's a trap trick question.
Oh, now I know where's the question.
You know that the airlines and airports both still works the same traditional way. There are only pieces which got innovated. The future travel will have a very different version. And next 5 to 7 years, you're going to change disruption happening in each and every niches and a step, whether there is a concierge needed or a subscription model. That is going to come in. Airports will be the mall of future. So, and Singapore and Dubai both are great examples on that. Lot coming, boss. You and I have tons and tons of work to do.
Thanks so much for your time, everyone. Thanks so much.